Thanks a lot for staying with us on TVC Breakfast. Now to the next leg of our discussion. The Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, has prohibited the Western Nigeria Security Network, commonly called Amotekun, as well as other vigilante groups from participating in the Ondo State gubernatorial election, in which no fewer than 17 political parties are expected to take part in. According to the IGP, through the force spokesperson, Muyiwa Adejobi, only federal security agencies and members of the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security will be allowed to participate in the election. And he also said that the Nigeria Police Force, in collaboration with other federal security agencies, remain committed, vigilant, and fully prepared to ensure that the polls proceed smoothly without any incident, and that all these security operatives uphold the highest standards of electoral integrity. Now, these agencies, he says, will adhere strictly to the guidelines of the Electoral Act of 2022, ensuring that all measures taken align with the principles of fairness, transparency, and order. That's what we want to discuss now. We bring in via Zoom from Ondo State, Nelson Ekujumi is the Executive Director of the Center for Social and Economic Rights. We'll also be having Ayodele Ozubako, TVC News Senior Political Correspondent. Gentlemen, welcome to the program. Let's begin with Mr. Nelson Ekujumi. Right, what do you make of this move by the IGP to ensure that security agencies are not biased? That appears to be the rationale for him ordering that there will be no Amotekun Corps on patrol during the election.
Well, good morning. Thank you for having me. Good morning to Nigerians. The ban by the Inspector General of Police is in tandem with past precedents. If you remember, the recently concluded Ondo State gubernatorial election on September 21st, you recollect that the IGP also banned a vigilante group being run by the Ondo State government from participating in the election, and the reasons are not far-fetched. Before any election, there are lots of activities that go on, even including inter-security agencies meeting with the Independent Electoral Commission to ensure transparency and credibility of the process. And all those measures must have been put in place to ensure that the integrity of the election is not in any way tainted. And we must not run away from the fact that we live in a climate where our political class are very, very, interesting lot of people. Even when the security agencies are not involved in electoral malpractice or misbehavior, you don't be surprised that if a candidate loses election tomorrow, the first thing he or she might want to propagate is that, they allowed some security agencies who were not part of the national security network to interfere in the process, and they are the ones that voted in XY voting points, or they are the ones that collated the results. So, in order to ensure the transparency and the credibility of the process, I think I'm of the firm conviction that this ban by the IGP is in tandem with the mantra of ensuring that the credibility and the transparency of the election is not in any way compromised.
And the extent to which this is relevant is one that is still being questioned. I mean, considering how it happened during the Ondo State election. So talk to us about whether this actually does more harm than good, considering that this is a security network that understands the terrain of the state and are possibly able to manage the situation if it gets out of hand.
Well, I beg to disagree with you. The security in Ondo State was top-notch. Any rational and unbiased mind will attest to that fact. Where we had with the deployment of the security agencies that were not visible before election, only on the day of election, except if you have ulterior motives, that is when you'll be threatened. I was in Ondo State, and even Edolites came out and said they never knew that their good boys, in quotes, have masters. That it was like because of the security deployment, the good boys in Ondo State went, on a compulsory leave, that maybe they will resume after the election. But all the boasts before the elections disappeared into thin air. So when you are talking about knowing the terrain, don't also forget that there's an Ondo State Police Command that is spoken by the Nigerian police of people of Nigerians who are resident in Ondo State. And even though security operatives will be deployed from neighboring states, the deployment, the mobilization will be done by those on ground. So, and like I stated earlier on, elections security is not just planned a week or on the day of election. A lot of meetings have been held. As we speak, I can tell you for free that INEC has even met the political parties several months ago, several weeks ago. So that tells you clearly that the program for the election has been put in place, has been tailored towards an end. And for you to now involve an agency or somebody who was not part of your planning, don't be surprised if anything goes wrong. One of the parties could say you compromise the protest entrance. Oh, it is not out of place, and what the IGP has done. Yeah. Hello.
Yeah, hello, Mr. Kujimi. We can hear you. We can hear you. But can you just wrap up that thought now so we come over to get some more answers from Kayode Egbetokun?
Yes, like I told you, the greatest security for the election are the people of Ondo State. And so long as the people are on ground, they themselves, when they see the security operatives on ground, they will all collectively, they will provide the security no matter where the security operatives are coming from. So the issue of locality does not, even though is germane, but with regards to elections in Nigeria, you and I know very well that even some days before election, we see the IGP deploying heads of agency, head of his personnel stationed in some locations in order to ensure transparency and credibility. Because the whole essence of the election is to ensure that whoever wins clean and fair, and whoever loses clean and fair, so that people will not come up and allege compromise from the security agencies.
All right, Mr. Kujimi, let's put you on hold and come over now to hear from TVC News senior political correspondent Kayode Egbetokun, who is also live for us in Ondo State. So, Kayode, with this announcement by the IGP and, of course, with security a paramount issue as always, what's the impact of the announcement that Amotekun Corps and other related units will not be functioning during the election? What's the impact of that from what you're seeing in Ondo right now?
All right, Chami, I think it's clear from the Electoral Act, as amended, our Electoral Act that guides the conduct of election, that guides the Independent National Electoral Commission in conducting election. There is the only statutory body recognized officially in the country to conduct any election, to serve as security to the Independent National Electoral Commission is the Nigerian Police Force. That's the #1 body. Any other sister agency partnering with the Nigerian police and everything, that will be the official security agencies we have in Nigeria. Like the IGP had said, if there's going to be deployment of over 30,000 policemen here across 18 local governments in Ondo State. But what we're seeing here is that he has said that it's going to be complemented by men of the NSCDC, immigration services, customs services, and everybody coming together, not a local arrangement that is seen, that is not recognized by the federal government of Nigeria. So the issue of Amotekun being on duty TV on Saturday, it's a no-no. They will not be allowed. They will not even be accredited, because even policemen that are going to be accredited, you know, not ordinary, all policemen across the country will be accredited. They are going to go through the process of accreditation from the Independent National Electoral Commission, and they must have their tags so registered. Even journalists that will be participating in this election, INEC has given a breakdown of the figure of the number of journalists that they expect to cover, the number of TV stations, radio stations, and everything. So it's a given that Amotekun would not play any role during Saturday's exercise. And Ondo State is very, very funny. And when it comes to the off-cycle election that started in 2016, that is one of the states that, 8 states in Nigeria that they don't conduct their governorship election as the general election. So the cycle was broken, and the former governor Olusegun Agagu and Rahman Olusegun Mimiko. And if you see, since the creation of the states, it's only Governor Mimiko that actually spent 2 times in office. Every other governor that have been governors in Ondo State, they come for their second time. Somehow, military coup d'etat, they don't make it. Some will die in office, and as you have it, Aketi Akeredolu, the deputy governor, his first-time deputy governor, is now the candidate of the People's Democratic Party. His second-time deputy governor is now the candidate of the All Progressive Congress. And talking about the 17 candidates that are going to be filing out to wanting to occupy their Alagbaka seats in Ondo State, I can tell you that you just have 2 prominent parties. A lot of people have narrowed it down that it's going to be a straight contest between the All Progressive Congress and the People's Democratic Party. But other parties are also saying, yes, we have right to have a voice. The Labour Party, with their presidential candidate, was all about town yesterday, Peter Obi, and the number of people that came out, to visit Peter Obi, to greet Peter Obi, and he's saying the story that, Labour Party is still a force to reckon with. As part of the force to reckon with, we have another party that the youth, YPP, people is saying that, look, it's not about the All Progressive Congress, the Big Two, or the People's Democratic Party alone. I have the candidate of YPP for Saturday's election. Can we meet you? What's your name, sir?
Thank you, Ayodele. Thank you, viewers at home. Thank you, Kemis too. My name is John Otitoloju Akimorele, the governorship candidate of the Young Progressive Party in the Saturday governorship election in Ondo State. Why
do you think you can make the difference among the behemoth called APC and the People's Democratic Party?
Well, thank you. I know I will make a difference because I put consistency to my conviction, and I put determination to my conviction. And I believe with consistency, impossible is dead. And I believe Ondo State is ripe to witness another era.
Now, do you just think it's all about, coming out, taking your nomination form, about your presence in 18 local governments and over 3,999 polling units? Do you have agents there? Are you on ground?
I have agents on ground, and, I would say particularly that from what INEC even released, I can tell you that any party in Ondo State completed the upload for their party agents in all the local governments. And as YPP,
even the big parties.
Even the big parties. And to us in the YPP, we did our best to have reasonable number. And one thing I want you to know is that Ondo State is in a state of abject and prevailing hunger. There is hunger in this land, and a hungry man is an angry man. There is insecurity, there is low commerce, there is lack of infrastructure. And you could adduce to this fact that you could see a relatively low atmosphere, even concerning election. That shows that the people are not inspired with the status quo.
The morale is low.
The morale is low. They are not inspired with the status quo. And that is why I believe that as much as we want this change, should we now sit back in our room and think that a change will come to this? So that is why I'm out, and I believe, even where a YPP of this world, my party is not having a party agent, people will volunteer to secure their vote because the status quo must not continue.
talking about the status quo, we have the two big parties. According to the pre-election analysis of an election monitoring body, Yaga Africa, it says that in some local governments, they've started inducing them, the big parties, they've started inducing them with fertilizers, cassava, farm products, and a lot of things. Do you think you have the war chest? Because poverty seems to have been weaponized.
Thank you, Ayo. Of a truth, YPP may not have the war chest to compete with a ruling, to induce people, and that is not even our style. We are not to induce anyone. However, I believe that with the current situation on ground, the Ondo State people, they are wiser. Stipends or votes were traded in the last 8 years, in the last 4 years, and we have seen where this has led us to. So I think once beaten, twice shy. So no matter what the inducement, no matter what the incentive now, I believe the people will stand up to their conscience and vote for the new equation in this election. And the new equation, the new factor in this election is the Young Progressive Party, YPP.
All right. I share from your optimism. I want to wish you the best of luck in your quest, ahead of Saturday's election. So, Kemi, talking about interest, talking about, the way people will be voting on Saturday, over 2 million registered voters across the 18 local governments. We've seen the kind of docility on the part of, when you look at the trajectory from 2011 till this time, that the registered voters and the number of turn-up, and we've seen that the candidates, when you juxtapose it with what happened in Ondo State, the candidates and the gladiators, they are not as popular as what we had in Ondo State. Here we have the two former deputy governors, but the political party seems to be the main symbol that with the structure on ground across the local government. So a lot of people are saying it's going to be down to the wire between the All Progressive Congress and the People's Democratic Party. And any moment from now, we expect the Chief of Army Staff to also come into town today. He's going to meet with stakeholders and some military guys and ahead of Saturday's election to give a kind of backing to the Nigerian police force in whatever they want to do. And the Inspector General of Police actually said it that, we are going to deploy four police officers per polling unit. When you do the calculation, 4 police officers per polling unit, and we have 3,993 polling units. So the calculation will give you like an excess of 15,000 policemen across the 18 local governments and the polling units in Ondo State, Kemi.
Right. The candidate mentioned something. He said that there is a low atmosphere in Ondo as regards preparation for the election. Looking at the mechanisms put in place by the state government, INEC, the security you also mentioned, does it seem like the people are actually not ready to vote in this election?
I think because of the situation in the country, I think because of what we have, and a lot of people are saying they seem not to be too inspired from what is happening, the economic situation in the country. I can tell you that even if the candidate of the All Progressive Congress is a deputy governor, he has been going around and with billboards, his posters, trying to reach out to people, the People's Democratic Party, to the candidate. And one interesting thing about this candidate is that it is narrowed down to the southern senatorial district of the states, and the major voting bloc for the state is in the central senatorial district, that is this Akure and Ondo axis. But by consensus, the two major political parties, they've decided to zone the candidacy to the southern senatorial district, that's the Eseodo areas. And those areas, there are 2 local governments in Saturday that might be a kind of challenge to the Independent National Electoral Commission. It's the Ilaje Eseodo area. Those are 2 local governments. Those 2 local governments, they will need to deploy speedboats, they will need to deploy a lot of things to be able to access the very, very clumsy terrain in Ondo State. That will cost a lot of logistics and everything. But on Saturday, we're going to see how the Independent National Electoral Commission, how they intend to overcome this logistics problem, because they will need to deploy several speedboats. They will need to deploy the voting materials that are expected tomorrow. It will get to Akure today. By tomorrow, party agents, security officials, and we are going to be inspecting the sensitive materials, particularly that will be arriving anytime today at the Central Bank of Nigeria. Temi. All
right, indeed, it's a very you're in the peak moment over there. But let's quickly flip over now to Mr. Nelson Ekujumi, who is also bringing us key insights at this time. So, to what extent do you agree with Yega Africa's report now talking about what it calls some form of inducement on the part of a key political party inducing voters with fertilizers, maize, rice, and all? How does this correspond with what you are seeing as an election observer?
Well, please, quickly, let me correct one impression I heard from one of you in the studio, that Amotekun will not be allowed to carry out their responsibilities on election day. Absolutely not. Amotekun is a regional or a state security outfit, and they have their modus operandi. And I'm sure when it was being set up, covering or providing security for elections was not part of their duty. So on that day, they will be at their various duty posts, because, like we said, security is a 24/7 activity. Right. Security agencies do not sleep even for a second. So Amotekun will be at work, but they are not accredited to participate in this
during the election.
Like yes,
during the election,
because every person or every group that is participating in this election will be accredited by INEC. That is what the law says. Even not all the policemen in Ondo State. It's not every policeman you see that will be participating. Those that will be participating will be given, an identity, maybe a badge. You see, media will be given accreditation. They have, accreditation badges or tags. So if you are not accredited and you are participating, then you are on an illegal activity. That be the case. So quickly to your question about vote buying. Well, I don't know where Yaga got his information from. Yaga is an organization like so many other organizations that have been accredited to observe these elections. One should expect people to ask Yaga to provide evidence of those statements. So, because we all know for free that as we speak today, governments at various levels, individuals, groups, are doing all they can to complement, ameliorating the human condition. So if somebody in my locality gives out, looking at the situation of the country and said, okay, people in this locality, let me share maybe a bag of rice or 1 cup of gari, I don't know how that will translate to vote buying on an election that is still days away. Because you and I know for free that, like we always say, every election is local. You talk about the political firmament. The firmament in Ondo State, from time immemorial, has been that the governors has been zoned to the various geopolitical zones within the state. And in the last dispensation, it was zoned to the north. That is why late Governor Olurotimi Akeredolu served 2 terms. You remember in 2020, when Eyitayo Jegede from Ondo Central, was in the race against Akeredolu during his first term, during his second term. Even people in Ondo Central said, no, you can't run. Olusegun Mimiko from the Central has just done 2 terms. Allow the North to have its own turn. After the North, it's going to South. And that is why you see that the major political parties have their candidates coming from the southern part of the state. So it's not about the people, some persons assuming that I'm credible. It's about what is the political firmament in the state tilting towards. You talk about Edo just some months ago. That was the same situation, that we saw at play. That is the local, developments in our politics. And if you want to wish that away, well, good luck to you. But our people, like we say, have their own local intelligence, and they will do their appropriate thing on the day of the election. So talking about the allegations by Yaga, I don't have any fact to corroborate that. All I see is that come Saturday, the people will be going there to vote. If anybody has evidence of people who are buying vote, I think they know that vote buying is a criminal offense under our electoral law. Then they should avail the security agencies and let us take it further from there.
All right, so let's quickly go back to our senior political correspondent, Ayo. Ayo, talk to us about how INEC is collaborating with other stakeholders in the state and also the media, the civil society groups, and possibly political parties to ensure a level of transparency in this election.
Yes, Kemi, from our guest, Nelson Ikujimi, I'd like to even reiterate the fact that it's stated clearly that any regional or any state body is just like what we call neighborhood watch in Lagos State, to participate in the governorship or presidential election in Lagos State. It's never going to happen. Amotekun, I say it again, I put everything on it. There's a section of the Electoral Act that states that Amotekun will not, it's not recognized. They are not going to be accredited, and anybody not accredited for that election, they are not going to participate in that election. I stand to be corrected. So the regional body, in Southwest regional body, Amotekun, would not be participating in Saturday's election as far as our Electoral Act is concerned. Now, going to the Inspector General of Police and the arrangements they've made with other security agencies, those are the ones that we've been seeing. Customs, immigration, NSCDC, even the Nigerian military. Now, there's also a part of our Electoral Act that says that no armed policeman can go close to the polling units. That means those ones that are going to be armed on Saturday, they're going to be some distance, some kilometers away from the polling unit. The four policemen that the IGP is talking per polling unit is talking about, those ones that are not going to be carrying, any arm. They are just going to be there to observe the process and to monitor security, to forestall the breakdown of law and order. If there's need to call on the people away from that area or any polling units, they are going to make a call to the next available section. That's where the security has been arranged, and the military, they collaborate with them in trying to mount the border, Ondo State, the border with Ekiti State, the border with Kogi State, in the northern senatorial districts, So they are going to be coming together to just make sure that security, that there's no breakdown of law and order, and everybody, they have their job, cut out for them for Saturday's election. That's what's going to be bringing the total tally to like 47,000 security men, talking in terms of the Nigerian police force, the NSCDC, Nigerian Immigration, Customs Department, even the Nigerian Prison Service. Some guys from the Nigerian Prison Service, they were deployed for this exercise, and we're going to have men from the Department of the State Security Services even on ground, all duly, recognized by the Independent National Electoral Commission. Kemi.
Right. Gentlemen, that'll be a fine place to leave our conversation. Of course, we will have another opportunity, at least more than once, to speak again on all these issues bordering on the integrity of the electoral process in Ondo State for the gubernatorial election. Ayodele Ozugbaku and Nelson Ikujimi, many thanks again.
Thanks for having me.